To give you some context, in case you're new to this channel, I'm working on a 2D puzzle platformer called Astortion. You can think of it as a mix between Ori and the Blind Forest and Portal 2, but we'll go back to that in a moment. Technically, I started the development back in 2020. I mostly had fun jumping from one tangent to another, doing anything but developing the actual game. So at the end of last year, I decided to start over, this time putting actual effort into finishing the game, with a strong emphasis on playtesting. But I have an entire video going into the details of that. What's important is that this is the first devlog after the reset. I started working on the game back in March, right after releasing my previous video. We've just finished the first round of playtesting with my patrons, so I figured it's high time I update you on the progress and present a more concrete vision for the game. So the main theme is the manipulation of space-time. With more emphasis on space rather than time, the player will be mostly dealing with elements that distort the gravity or warp them between places. You may already be familiar with one such element, which is the anchor. Upon interaction, it creates a sinkhole that pulls the player into its center. At first, it may feel a bit like a grappling hook. Players can use it to lift themselves off the ground and leap across pits, but thanks to the distorted gravity, it lets them walk on any obstacles in the way or orbit around its center like a little planet to get some extra height. The anchor went through a lot of iteration compared to the old version of the game. It now features a well-defined radius that the player needs to enter in order to activate it, an idea inspired by Unravel. This makes the level design a bit more controllable, since the player can no longer just grab any anchor from anywhere and effortlessly fly towards it. Also, the movement direction is now relative to the camera. Consider this clip from the old game. I start by holding D to run to the right, but once I activate the anchor, I need to switch to A to continue going in the same direction. This is because the old controls were relative to gravity, so when the player was upside down, the left became the right and vice versa. In the new version, pointing the joystick to the right will make the character go to the right of the screen, no matter if she's on the floor or the ceiling. Those changes made the game infinitely better to play on a controller, and in fact, I now consider it to be the recommended way of experiencing the game. While watching my patrons play, I was happy to see that most people picked up on how the anchors work without much trouble, and later described them as fun to play with, which really restored my faith in this mechanic. But the anchor was not the only thing we playtested. The game featured walkable walls, launch pads, funnels, hooks, and gravity fields, as well as various ways they can interact with each other. Back in the old version, I used to think that the anchor mechanic alone was enough to support multiple hours of gameplay without becoming repetitive. In hindsight, that's obviously naive. If all we have is only one mechanic, the possibilities quickly deplete. A true variety comes from mixing things up and making them play off of each other. Maybe I could use an anchor as an intermission in a series of launch pads, or use it to reach another element, or disconnect myself from a walkable wall. That's why this time around I experimented with lots of different mechanics, trying to find the ones that nicely complement each other. As a result, this little playtest demo is already more fun to play than everything in the old version put together. We even spent a few days speedrunning the game with some of my patrons. Yes, they took the world record from me, no, I'm not bitter about it. For real though, I think it's a sign that the game is going in the right direction. If you'd like to try this demo yourself, it's available on my Patreon to all tiers, otherwise stay tuned for the public Steam demo that's coming later this year. This first playtest focused on the platforming aspects, but next time we'll be tackling puzzle mechanics. This is where the Portal inspiration comes into play. You can expect all the classic elements like pressure plates, buttons, and cubes, but I also have some ideas that I think will play great with the rest of the platforming, though I'll reserve them for the future video after we playtest them. Now let's talk about the world of the game. To support the ever-changing gravity, the terrain is modeled using splines. It allows me to construct floors with vastly different angles and curvatures that nicely supplement other mechanics. I designed the world in Blender using curves, which are then picked up by my custom asset processor and hot reloaded by Bevy. This is by far the biggest productivity boost over my old setup. Being able to work directly in Blender and see the changes at runtime makes it a joy to design the world. I'll go into all the juicy technical details in the next video because this topic is just fascinating. Speaking of the world, I never really mentioned it, but Astortion is a Metroidvania, although only in the most basic sense. The overall area progression is still linear, but individual areas are open for exploration and contain ability gates. I think Death's Door would be a perfect example of what I'm going for. It makes it easier to design the world because some puzzle mechanics need to be introduced in a specific order, but I believe it still retains some of that charm of exploration that stems from stumbling upon things we could have otherwise missed. On the technical front, the biggest change is that the world is no longer split into individual levels that fade to black in between, but is rather a continuous whole loaded dynamically, akin to both Ori games. When it comes to combat, the subject is really easy. There is no combat in Astortion. There are hostile things in the world that the players will have to avoid or find a way to neutralize, but there is no active fighting, weapons, and so on. This shouldn't be surprising given the two main inspirations for this game. Lastly, let's talk about the art style. Astortion is a pixel art game. Some parts are hand-painted, while others will be procedurally generated based on the spline data, but everything will be pixel perfect, rendered in 480 by 270 pixels. That includes the main character. I've heard your complaints, she will no longer rotate independently of everything else. The game will feature my smooth parallax technique, which lets individual layers move independently of each other. I personally find it much easier on my eyes, but it will be optional, in case you want to go full pixel perfect. Aside from that though, I'm not really trying to mimic the nostalgic pixel art look with restricted palettes and a limited number of sprites. Because, to put it simply, I'm a zoomer. I've never played a game where pixel art was a product of technical limitations. I feel no nostalgia for that. I simply like putting squares together and seeing how they look. A dire result of my childhood Minecraft addiction. With that out of the way, let's go over the menu, which underwent the biggest change. It will now be made in a flat minimalistic style that you probably know from my videos, and overlaid on top of the pixel art game. This choice was mostly inspired by Celeste. It makes working with fonts much easier, since at a resolution this small, pixel-perfect fonts would have to be huge, and there's not much styling that you can do with them anyway. A full HD UI lets me use normal fonts, and I think it will work very well with the sci-fi setting of the game. But that would be it for this devlog. I hope it gave you a better idea of what Astortion is and where it's heading. I will be talking more about the gameplay as we continue to do more playtests, but I also have some fun technical videos in the making. Also, I've been streaming my process regularly for over a month now. You can catch me both on Twitch and my second channel every Sunday, Tuesday and Thursday. I start each stream with a little summary of what I've done so far, so feel free to tune in if you want a quick status update or if you just want to say hi. Anyway, thanks so much to all my patrons, thank you for watching, and until next time.